A friend just asked me if I thought it was a bad idea if she puts that she's a misandrist in her dating profile. And I told her, don't worry, men don't know what that word means.
You can tell that these men in these patriarchal countries that are experiencing these birth rate declines are not listening to women. They don't seek women's voices when it comes to coming up with ideas.
Children don't need men in homes just for the sake of saying that they have a two-parent household. Having a man-free home is peaceful and is a sanctuary for a lot of children.
This governor in South Korea said, we need to import some virgins. We talking about women as if they are cattle.
When I say we should delete 90% of men, you guys will come back at me saying things like, oh no, we could just not have boy children, as in we abort our boy sons.
As if they are a commodity to import.
So ask yourself, are the men in my life a part of the bottom 90% of men or the top 10%? You should be asking yourself that question every day and then choose accordingly whether or not you want these men to be in your life.
And to that, I will continue to say that this is why the birth rate needs to plummet to hell. Because if you think that women need to be imported like some freaking goats or like some cows, you do not respect the humanity of women.
If you ever feel bad for hating men, you shouldn't. You just shouldn't. Like, even if you think you hate them like so much, you don't hate them enough.
I'm teaching my 5-year-old daughter to be a misandrist.
If you were a kid of the 80s and you heard the theme music from this show come on, MASH, you knew that you had been up too late and it was time for you to go to bed. There were many jokes made about this show by my generation because of that particular reason, thinking that it was a boring show and people really couldn't understand why it remained popular for as long as it did. But understanding the message that the show meant to convey was the reason why it stayed on so long. One particular scene that I always remembered before I went to bed was of these women running for some reason that I could not grasp. But once you understand the point of the show, then you understand the historical significance of it in American lore. MASH stands for Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, a U.S. Army medical unit designed to provide immediate high-quality surgical care to wounded soldiers near the front lines. MASH units operated from the Korean War until 2006. MASH is the story of a ragtag bunch of medical misfits of the 4077th Mobile Army Surgical Hospital thrown together against the horrors of the Korean War during the 1950s. The series endured for 11 seasons from September 1972 to 1983.
War isn't hell. War is war and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse.
The creators of the show knew they wouldn't get away with making a Vietnam War comedy. Uncensored news broadcasts showing the viciousness of Vietnam were transmitted straight to American people who are by now growing jaded of the increasingly brutal war. Setting the series 20 years earlier allowed the creators to mask their criticisms behind a historical perspective, but most viewers realized the true context.
There are no innocent bystanders in hell. The war is chock full of them. Little kids, cripples, old ladies.
Almost all the characters are anti-war, reflecting the growing antagonism the American public was feeling towards the Vietnam War and war fatigue in general post-Vietnam.
In fact, except for a few of the brass, almost everybody involved is an innocent bystander.
What I have seen is that women are using abortion as birth control.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
What I have seen...
That's not even what the word birth control means.
In a year.
Okay, if I may finish. The protests, abortion on demand, my body, my choice, do whatever you want to. My concern, again, as an older woman, when we are all gone, what is going to be left behind if we look at families and children as disposable? I say, why do we have to take the nuclear option as the first option?
Salute to Maggie, the substitute teacher. They're talking about that child deletion stuff, and the way I feel about it now is, at this point, just put them in every Walmart so that people can do a drive-through and just talk about something else, because it's the same argument, my body, my choice and all that stuff. But what I like about what Maggie is bringing up here is what is being sacrificed at making it so easy to do that.
There's over 30-something forms of birth control for women. I don't know how many of them were created by women when we want to talk about laws. I'm sure there were men scientists that came up with these ways that we can prevent abortion by preventing getting pregnant if you don't want to. But I would just disagree. I think women are using it as, oh, well, not always. I'm sure there are reasons that are tragic. I've never had an abortion, thank God. I was able to deliver without issue. My husband and I planned for those children.
There's a kind of reoccurring theme that we've grown used to hearing in these pro versus anti, quote unquote, child deletion debates, if you want to put it that way, where many of the young ladies that are very pro doing that will bring up all of the different situations where if a young lady finds herself in such a situation that the only option she has is that, quote unquote, nuclear option, which it is what it is. And honestly, I don't really like talking about it because I'm tired of talking about it because I'd rather talk about having high-speed rail or something more important, but it is what it is. But what Maggie is talking about is the greater cost. What happens to that young lady down the road where she's thinking about that child she could have had, and instead of having a 7 or 8, 9, 10-year-old child, she has the ghost of that child maybe haunting her. And then there's the idea of all of those families that could have been. And instead of forming a family with that man, you can hear one of the ways that the young lady says the situation could be remedied by the state, of course.
Do you want to know the best policy for reducing abortion and increasing childbirth? The best policy is making birth free and providing comprehensive welfare care for mothers and children. This is why
there's no such thing.
Nothing is free. No.
Children don't need men in homes just for the sake of saying that they have a two-parent household.
If you ask me, am I an advocate of socialized healthcare, I will tell you, yes, I am. I live in a country that has it, and it's extremely convenient, but it's not free. It costs money. And that's essentially what this young lady is advocating for here. I don't need the family and the husband. I just need the help from the state. If I can have the child for free and I can have someone help me raise the child, what's the problem? Why can't the state provide that? And it's essentially bypass the family, which is what Maggie is talking about. These young ladies don't want to have a husband in their family, or at least not the young ladies aside from the one on the farthest left. They want to, if they choose to have a child, raise the child in any fashion that they see fit, without a man being there to impede them.
I'm teaching my 5-year-old daughter to be a misandrist.
As a Gen Xer, I come from a generation that still has a kind of emotional, touching, spiritual, romantic mystique around lovemaking. We call it lovemaking, so of course, when we have the love songs and all of that, we're alluding to that. But when you hear this young feminist lady speak, she's speaking extremely matter-of-factly about the act. It's almost like it's a legal act. Once a man makes the decision to do that, he is on the hook, point blank, period. And there's no backing out of it. You gotta pay.
Anybody dying is too many people dying.
But what about the man that seed you are carrying? Do he have a say? Do he have to pay for your child now that you have a baby? So he has no say.
Well, he does have a say with his body. It's at ejaculation. I'm glad we had that conversation.
So
my body, my choice, a uterus, his body, his choice, ejaculation.
So you have a choice to decide that, okay, I don't want to keep this baby.
Right, because that's my body choice.
But he has no choice in that.
No, his body choice was ejaculation.
Okay, but
yeah, our bodies work differently, so I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Once he ejaculates, can he not pay for that child? If he has a choice, right?
Well, he didn't make a body choice that was appropriate for him, is what I'm hearing here.
But you're
telling me his body choice, he doesn't agree with that now.
You have a half of a human being that belongs to him in your body. So,
yeah, but he had a choice at ejaculation.
So it's all about me. That's
did he have a body choice at ejaculation?
Did he have a body choice? You let him.
No, did he have a body choice at ejaculation?
You opened
you're blaming the woman for ejaculation?
Yes,
she doesn't even have a dick.
You opened your legs. Who grants access to sex? Women do.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're blaming women entirely.
They're raping me.
This is why I can't have a conversation, because I just told you that both men and women have a body choice because our biology is different. I let you know that men have a body choice. You agreed that ejaculation is a body choice that is had by men. And I said, great, that's their choice. And you went, well, then it's women's fault for letting them finish inside.
That was a body choice. And then he made a body choice.
And that is what many young men are dealing with in the dating market. This young lady doesn't have any empathy for the other side in terms of what men are dealing with in this legal situation. If a man makes the decision to partake in the act, he is on the hook for whatever the woman decides. And so when people start talking about, are guys involuntary or are they voluntary in terms of celibacy? you have to think about it. Are you really willing to lay down with a young lady like this and take on whatever decision she chooses to make? Either you want the child and she doesn't, or you don't want the child and she does. That's a very difficult decision for a growing number of men that I don't believe are the incels that many people are calling them.
But men value women that they marry, not women that they have sex with. So women that they have sex with is usually just the throwaway.
But again, men who like to have sex like to be with women who like to have sex.
For me, unfortunately, I suffer from being empathetic. So when I see these kinds of young ladies, I think about what their life is going to be 15, 20 years down the road. And from my point of view, they're going to need a MASH unit, except it's not going to be a physical MASH unit. It's going to be a psychological one. They're going to need people that are studied to help them deal with the fact that, just like many guys in this space go through their rage, feeling like they were lied to and they weren't given proper information, they're going to go through the same thing 20 years in the future, maybe 5, 10, however many years in the future. And they're going to say, that guy that really liked me and I just had a good time with him, I could have had a family with him. Or better yet, that child that I got rid of, that child could be in college now. How are they going to deal with that is what Maggie is talking about. And that's the part of the conversation that they're not really listening to, because guys see this from a different perspective and they just don't want to listen to that.
I would disagree.
They just partner together.
I just personally feel like you guys probably don't ever listen to men. Men like women with a low body count. You could just listen to them and they'll tell you this out of their mouth. You don't have to go looking for this.
But again, this is the conversation. The men I like to date are like me, and they like to have lots of partners because we are good in bed and we're experienced.
But you guys are always
and those men want to have a woman who they own their virginity.
You're
Great,
always speaking for the exception and not the rule, though. Why you?
And there it is. These young ladies have become so self-assured in their theology that they know whatever they're doing right now is the right answer. And Maggie understands it's not the right answer, and the future is waiting for them, and it's not pretty and it's not soft.
I'm asking why do men prefer women with lower body counts? Is it just innate,
because
or is there
these
a
are the
reason?
women that have to bear their children.
Ignorance is bliss, and they don't want to be
These are the women
compared.
that have to bear their children.
Salute to Maggie, the substitute teacher, because here she's about to cook.
I actually wanted to answer your question.
Yeah, you don't have to work either. That's the point. Your man will pay the taxes. That is exactly the point. You won't work. What world?
Okay.
I don't know.
I actually wanted to answer your question. You asked about body count, coming back to body count, which was the last prompt. And you said, why do men want a woman with a low body count? And the answer is because we're not equal. And again, this is going to always be the fallacy and the flaw with feminism, because you're going to be fighting for an equality that does not exist. I'm not saying better or worse. I'm saying we are different. Now, it depends on what you want intimacy for. If you want to be out there doing it with everybody, you absolutely have your right to do that. Please be loud and proud. We want to see you coming. The men love women like that to have fun with. However, when you talk about love, when you talk about marriage, when you talk about a committed relationship, most of us, when you get to your old age, usually you have one, if you're lucky, like me, two great loves. You don't think about the string of casual sex that has been promoted and think of that like, man, I really got it all in. Most of us don't. You're free to do that if you want to, but I'm just saying, as we age, what's going to really matter is the relationships, the marriages, the families, the relationships that meant something, the intimacy that meant something. You can do as much as you want to with whoever you want to, but I do agree the way casual sex is promoted now, it is hurting us. It may be fun in the moment, but it's going to hurt us, and we're all going to pay the price for it.
Bingo. That's the message that many people won't tell these young feminists. They just focus on the fun of the moment, that they can do whatever they want, that they can get the state to help them raise a kid and have their child for free and help them with the babysitting, and they don't need a man for any of it. Which is fine if you want to do it that way, but you're essentially telling half of the population, we don't need you. We don't want you here. You're not important. You're not necessary. And so guys sit back and instead of being that guy that would bring you flowers on Valentine's Day or massage your feet when your back hurts or take you to the hospital when you have an issue, he is sitting across the street playing his video games or reading his books or doing whatever he's doing. And he doesn't have any relationship with you. And it's easy to do that when you're a young lady and all the guys want to be with you. And all you have to do is send him a text and he's on his way over. But it's easy for young ladies to have sex. We didn't know that. What about when you're 45, 50 and he's 50 and he has resources and he has everything in order and you wish that you were married to him? And he looks at you and says, nah, no. You're going to need a MASH unit for all these young ladies. When we look back at the fallout from the Vietnam War, you see 58,274 casualties. In a way, it seems like a large number, and in other ways, it doesn't seem like such a large number when you compare it to other wars. But when you consider that there were 2,000 people that were killed by friendly fire, I mean, that's 2,000 homes that were affected. Then you have to think of the cost of the people that came back home and they psychologically weren't the same anymore. That number was many times higher than the people that came home with physical injuries. And that's just one war. But then we think about what happened with many of these young ladies who may have dealt with having a child inside of them and them going to the clinic and getting that child taken care of. Or all of the broken hearts that they've had of guys that they develop feelings for. And that guy says, this is just for fun. You didn't think that we were just having fun? That's got to take a toll on these young ladies, because I'm hearing young ladies speak in a way that I've never heard young ladies speak before. When I hear young ladies get really matter of fact about what that intimate process is and speak of it as such, they're essentially saying that I am trying to adapt to seeing this the same way that that top percentage of men that are running through women see it. And the truth of the matter is, those men that have money still believe in love. Look at the NFL, the NBA. You can look at titans of industry. All kinds of people have gotten married, fallen in love. Those marriages fell apart. And you see someone like Will Smith slap somebody on stage because love. And so it has to be affecting these young ladies. It's got to be. And no one's really having that conversation, at least in terms of the feminist camp, about that part of it, that emotional part that these ladies are turning cold or angry at men. You're seeing more and more and more of it on the internet, just post after post after post of these women who are dating a ever smaller group of men, complaining more about men than ever before, hating men more than ever before. And there are men looking around saying, I don't know what they need, but it's not me. It might be a psychological MASH unit. And every day that we open up social media, it just gives more and more evidence that in the future, maybe those psychological MASH units are going to be what women need to deal with the fallout from feminism. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below, catch the next video. Take care, guys.